started my career in 2008, September to be precise. And so I think it's important to remember that it was a financial crisis at that time, and I was persuaded that I was a good woman to do audits and to control companies, but to be honest, this was awful as an experience because I wanted to be part of the solution for my clients and not to be as a woman when you are in a company and you say you have to do that, do that, do that, and there is no construction with your client. And I decided to continue to work in the banking system because it was a good experience to meet a lot of people and to enrich myself about assets and liabilities management, banking regulation, and it was something very strong, and you have a lot of things, so it changes every time, and so this is my personality. I want to have a lot of changes in my life, as personal or professional life. Yeah. And finally, in 2017, it was the first time I heard about sustainable finance, and for me it was, in contradiction to have sustainability and finance in the same sentence. But it was more concrete when I went into the different regulations, different action plan about sustainable finance. And I think we have a lot of things to do in the banking system or in the financial sector as a whole. But for the moment, it's still difficult because we have no standard. We have only a big idea of what we have to do, but there is still a contradiction between the economic financial pillar and the environmental pillar. And so I think that we need to find a good balance, not to say that we have only to deal with the environment, only to deal with the economics, but to find a bridge between them.
And working in corporate and investment banking and these big companies probably gave you the credibility to now work in a big organization, because you could say that if you are a startup or building a company for the first time, or if you're small, it is easier to have a, say, decarbonization strategy or something of that sort. How do you do that with a big organization like the one that you're working in now? Where do you start with something like that?
I think that the scale is different, but we don't need to think about large or small companies, but to think about projects. I think that it can be easier when you are a small company because, for instance, we have only 10, 20 people, and so it's quite easy to implement. And it's really different when we have 1,000 people in the company, but you have more money to do that. But for me, and I have the conviction this is the start of every successful project, is to have convictions and to identify the good people within the company to implement this project. Because for me, decarbonization is a big project of a company, and you need to have this conviction at the beginning, because you will have different obstacles during this journey to decarbonization. And so if you have the good people, and these people can become ambassador of your project, you will be successful in the end.
So personal conviction. Yeah. To champion this, and then to find ambassadors to multiply the effect, because you can't do that on your own. So for those who do not know, including me, because I'm not here from Switzerland, your company, Romande Energie, what is it?
So we were created in 1887, so about 140 years ago. So we are an old company in Switzerland. And at the beginning, we are a company in the electricity sector. So if you want to have light in your home, you need electricity, so it's quite simple. And with years, we diversified our activities, and we became an energetician. So it's a bit different because there is not only electricity, but also thermal energy. So it deals about power energy, so wind energy, solar energy, so what we call renewable energies now. And now we have a new challenge because we set up our new strategy last year, and we want to become a good player, one of the big players to decarbonize the Western Switzerland by 2040.
2040.
So it's big ambition.
Yes.
And as a company, we do not love to say that we will be carbon neutral. So if I have something to say, we cannot say that we have seen it with Philippe and Sasha. It's not possible to be carbon neutral because it means that you can pollute as you want, and then you just have to compensate, and at the end, there is zero. It's not possible. As a company, we need to be, we have rights, but we have also duties, and we need to say, and at Romande Energie, we say that, first, we need to reduce our emissions at maximum, and if you have a look at the last IPCC report, we need to reduce by 95% our carbon emissions to be at the appointment at the end with the Paris Agreement and to be carbon neutral in Switzerland in 2050. And then, if you have residual emissions, you can compensate in a second time. But this is not the goal to compensate first. You need to work on your own emissions and then to compensate. And so at Romande Energie, we keep on producing electricity, developing solutions for our clients in terms of thermal and electricity energy, but we also want to be an example and to be a pioneer in decarbonization in Switzerland.
So I was going to ask about that because I'm sure your collaborators, your shareholders, your stakeholders are watching, but so are your competitors, right? Yep. And other people are doing the same thing. So when you have this bold mission, by 2040, by 2050, you want to do this, do you think it's having an impact locally? Is it having an impact in the regions? Do you think people around the world are paying attention?
I think that we need to think on different levels. We are a listed company, so we have a public and a private shareholding, so it's a bit difficult because 4 of our, out of our 9 board members are from Canton of Vaud. Mm-hmm. And so we have a public mission as a company of the canton. And I think that everybody is convinced that we need to be on the way of decarbonization because this is the goal of the canton of Switzerland, so I think it's okay. When you talk with your clients, it's a bit difficult, and it's the same with our employees because when you say decarbonization, it's not very concrete. You can imagine pollution, air pollution, waste management, and so on and so forth, but concretely, what is decarbonization? And so that's why I was talking about projects, not about a mission at the of the entire company, because it's easier when you have small groups or communities to work on it. And for instance, with employees, we really like to use simple words. When you put a strategy, or when you put an ambition like decarbonization, you can say a lot of things. You can tell a story with a lot of pictures and good words, and so to make you dream, if I can say that. But in the real life, it doesn't work. You need to say, when you, for instance, when you drink a glass, you have water, and you do that, but just to give some very simple examples. Mm-hmm. And you can create this link with your employees and with your clients. So, I'm not here to criticize our competitors, but when you have a look at different sustainability reports, you can have a lot of big figures that we were successful to avoid 60,000 tons of CO2 last year. Okay, that's great. But in the end, how did we do that? Mm-hmm. And today, about these carbon removals or carbon avoidance, there is no standard. So it's quite easy to say what you want. And for me, it's very misleading for a client or for every stakeholder because we just need to say that we don't know how to measure it for the moment. So that's why at Romande Energie, we have decided not to disclose such type of figures, but just to think about it internally and to find a good way to measure it and to be sure that there is an alignment between the different product managers of the company. And I think this is essential for us.
So I'm going to challenge you on what you just said, right? So you said, given that some competitors, and it's easier to just give some big numbers, I'm not going to ask you to give specific numbers. What exactly is the decarbonization strategy? What are you measuring? How do you know if you've achieved it or not?
First of all, you need to measure your carbon emissions.
Uh-huh.
What so some of you may have heard about GSG protocol. So this is a standard at the international level, the most used at the international level, and it's a way to measure your carbon emissions during 1 year. Mm-hmm. And so you have different scope of emissions depending on it deals with direct or indirect emissions. and you can compare it to your revenues, and then thanks to this ratio, you have the carbon intensity of your revenues. And so we use it at Romande Energie, and we set up an ambition to decrease it by 5% every year between 2021 and 2026.
Okay.
But this is a goal, and that's nice because this is concrete and you can refer to it. But I think that the most important thing is to know how you want to reduce your emissions. Mm-hmm. And then you enter into the daily strategy of the company, and so you need to take your carbon balance sheet and to identify the most polluting activities, and then to create small groups, working groups, to work on it and to say, okay, so we know that about 80% of our carbon emissions are due to purchases of goods and services. Okay. So how do you reduce that? And when you talk about purchases, it's very difficult because you need to work with your suppliers, and so you enter into a new relation. It does not deal with the relation between a supplier and a client, but in a partnership between the suppliers and Romande Energie. Because we are convinced that it's pretty new for our suppliers as well, and so we think that we can capitalize on what we have implemented in Romande Energie to help our suppliers and to find a good way together. And so we started identifying different types of purchases with a high carbon emissions level, and to say what type of information we need to do a better calculation, and then to implement an action plan for reducing these carbon emissions. So it's a day-to-day work.
Of course. And so far, everything you've been sharing, you share with a lot of positivity and enthusiasm. Yeah. But what are some of the challenges and difficulties? Are there people within the company that say no? Do you have struggles with clients or shareholders? Or are they on board and the challenge is something else?
So I've recently read an article about the role of the environmental manager. So it was written by Julien Boucher, if you know this man. And it was really interesting because at the conclusion, it was said that you need 3 key actions to be successful regarding the environmental pillar or decarbonization. First, you need to create communities. And so this is my role. I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer at Romande Energie, but I'm not alone. I only represent something, but I need my colleagues to implement it. So we have a hierarchy, and you have different managers, we have our board, and we have our committee management, but I think that we are really open-minded to create transversal communities at the level of the company, and this is essential if you want to be successful, because alone I cannot do anything. I need my colleagues for purchases, for projects, HR, and so on and so forth. The second point is about ISO 14001 certification that deals with environmental management. And it's very structuring for a company because it can give you the threats and the opportunities you have when you talk about environmental pillar or about decarbonization. And we are on the way of that. And the last point, it's gamification. And it can be difficult to understand when you would never try it, but we try to train our colleagues with a climate fresk. So I have done the training in the past, and I think it's a good way to make decarbonization concrete for my colleagues. And you know, it's very wonderful because after each climate fresk, we see like a good spread of decarbonization and climate strategy at the level of the company, because some colleagues talk with other colleagues. And so we have a lot of requests to do this climate fresk. And so I think it's a good way to put a step within decarbonization. And then I think that we need an action plan, and just to structure it by different topics. So it can be the food in the company, it can be purchases, it can be waste, circular economy, for instance, it can be our vehicles. So you have a lot of things, but just to think about small projects and to create these communities with your colleagues and to find people who are convinced by the need to decarbonize, so that these people could convince the other colleagues. That's why I was talking about ambassador at the beginning.
You cannot miss Audrey, given her amazingly bright red outfit. If you have thoughts on how you can support in their big, ambitious goal, 5% reduction year on year for the next couple of years, or some of their milestones they want to hit by 2040 or 2050, please talk to her. If you're curious because you work in a large organization, and how do you become that ambassador or champion the work the way that Audrey has done with Romande Energie, please talk to her. So thank you so much for being here. Let's give Audrey a hand.